Is our universe real?
It's just ideas. They're just
The
ideas.
reality of your life is now.
You were tuned in to Psychedelic Download.
You are all, everything is divine.
The actor.
There's no thing that is divine.
We're winging
Is
it.
divine, and I'm that.
You ready to wing it? I know you.
Yeah.
We're winging it. We are plugged in. I don't know why I took a long pause there, but sometimes it takes things a little bit of time to download, like the AOL. Remember AOL download?
I do. Yeah, times have really changed.
Times really changed, man.
Now you can just chat to a robot.
Yeah. Now you can chat to a robot. Well, that's what we've been doing with all these notes.
Yeah, now you can go get ketamine injections in a random office building and get therapy. So
And not get arrested.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
dope.
what we're talking about today.
That is what we're talking about.
We're chatting ketamine, which was first synthesized in 1962 as a dissociative anesthetic and now is being used for treatments on depression, PTSD, anxiety, and used by some people. I don't know who those people would be, but some people are using it for powerful psychedelic experiences.
I don't know who those people would be.
And also for, social party situations as well.
Yeah, I don't know who those people would be either.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think we have to jump right into the weeds of the laws and everything at first. I think maybe first we should chat about some anecdotal experiences.
I agree. Before we get because I know I call it mean ketamine. Is that what everybody calls it? Or is that just what I call it?
Mean ketamine?
Yeah, mean ketamine. Because, man, that shit takes you.
Man, you gotta be
Mean
fucking ketamine.
Mean
You gotta be
ketamine.
fucking
Oh,
ketamine.
that's what they say? You gotta be ketamine. I like it. Nah, dude, I think you should probably go. I was introduced through ketamine through a very good friend of mine who works on a cartoon called Gurus. His name is Brian Flackus. I believe you may know him. But I think you should probably start with like some of your experience, how you came across it, and why you actually suggest it for someone like myself.
Man, what's interesting is it had been around the scene for, a lot of years. And I was honestly a little bit afraid to do it at first. And I feel like a lot of people are.
Why is it?
Because
Oh, you were about to say, sorry.
yeah, well, because of the popular lore around it, certainly, I started going to electronic music shows and stuff in like the late 90s when I was a teenager. And, back then they weren't in like, clubs or music festivals or big warehouses. It was like a lot of times like underground stuff. And in Arizona, they were like desert raves or forest parties that you'd go to like a record store and buy a ticket and
You
they
say
would give
forest
you
parties?
Yeah.
Who's
Forest.
that? Like the LIB stuff and the festivals?
Now it is, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Back then, those things didn't really happen like that for EDM specifically. But yeah, you go to a record shop, you buy a ticket, they'd give you a phone number, and then you would call the phone number day of, and they'd give you directions. It'd be a recording of directions, and you just have to follow those into the boondocks and find this like party. It was a lot of fun. But also, with some of that like undergroundness comes some shadiness, some danger. And there's, of course, all the drugs that are associated with that whole scene. Now, the lore around ketamine was scary for people. I think a lot of people were turned off from certain drugs like acid because the name sounds scary. Acid,
Right.
it will burn you.
Yo, dude, that was actually my experience with it. I remember the first time I heard about it in high school. I don't mean to cut you off. I guess I do mean to cut you off, but that was my impression with it. I was scared of it. I was like, what the hell is this stuff? But go ahead.
Yeah, the name I think is scary because
Yeah.
you connotate it with other things,
Yeah.
like a corrosive acid or something. And same with ketamine. A lot of people, I think, were afraid of ketamine because the lore around it was like, don't do too much. You'll get in a K-hole and then you'll be all like, then you're totally fucked and you can't do anything. And people really put the scare tactics on that.
Which truthfully, the point is to be in a K-hole. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't
Well,
even
that's
necessarily
my point.
know if I believe in a K-hole, like as people describe it.
Yeah.
It's honestly how I would describe a lot of psychedelics, and that is, if you do more ketamine than you think and you feel the feelings of it, you feel disassociative, you feel like you don't have full control over your body, and you freak out and you fight that feeling, then that is what a K-hole is, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
It's like any psychedelic. It's like,
Yeah.
you can't fight it. You
Yeah.
have to go with it. And that's
Yeah.
a metaphor for life. That's why you can learn so much about life with psychedelics. It's just like surfing. You don't fight the wave or you will drown. If you surf the wave, you have a blast.
Right.
Sometimes it tosses you in ways that you never could have expected. But as long as you just go with it and hold your breath when you need to and come up for air when you can, like, you can have a really life-changing experience.
Yeah.
So for me, that was why I avoided ketamine for a very long time, just because, I was afraid of that experience, and everybody had some sort of horror story. But like everything in psychedelics, it's all set and setting. If you do somewhere with get it from somebody that's trusted, that it's safe, and you do it in a safe space, and you do it with people that you trust, you are fine.
Right.
And what we've come to know is that ketamine is actually one of the safest drugs, as long as it's ketamine and it's not laced with something,
Right.
i.e. fentanyl these days, which didn't happen back then.
Right.
But now, as long as it actually is ketamine, it's one of the safest drugs you can do. It doesn't repress your respiratory rate or your heart. In fact, I have friends that are EMTs, and that's an essential part of their kit, because if they show up to an accident, for example, and there's a kid who's broken his leg and they don't know anything about his medical history, they don't know anything about his allergies, they know that they could slam him with some ketamine and reset that leg.
Right.
And they know that has the least chance of causing a problem. Now, it's a short-lived anesthetic, so that's why it was synthesized first. And actually, the WHO has labeled ketamine as an essential medicine because of how useful it is in these situations. Essential.
That's a big,
And-
strong word.
And as a medicine. And the other part of the lore is it's a horse tranquilizer.
Right,
Sure, they
right,
give it to a
right.
lot of animals, but humans are the number one animal that they give it to.
Right.
In those emergency situations and hospital situations, because it's not going to be an addictive like an opiate. It's short-lived, so if you need to put somebody under, you give them a higher dose.
Right.
Now, what people have found out more recently is that at low doses, it can be very psychedelic before you start just losing consciousness.
Right.
And so, back to your question, I finally did it after a music festival experience. I was already on other psychedelics, and the combination of that with the other psychedelics and in a safe space with good music and good friends was absolutely euphoric
Right.
and very psychedelic.
Right.
And just the experience that I had that time, because I'd done it maybe once or twice before in social situations, and it's an interesting social drug because it does dissociate you, so it's not as easy to talk and communicate and stuff like that.
Right.
But I found the real benefits are just taking it for a ride,
Right.
laying down, listening to music, closing your eyes.
But I feel like all the other drugs do that too. I mean, like mushrooms. If you're on mushrooms and acid and you have enough of it, it's gonna be hard to talk.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know I don't know why the stigmatism with ketamine. Actually, I really never had a apprehensive mind frame about it, because I had not heard about ketamine until a couple years ago, which I find interesting for someone like me who has dove as deep as I have into dimethyltryptamine and all them other psychedelics. But my first introduction with ketamine was when you introduced me to it. I'm not trying to incriminate you, so just in case the police ever arrest me and trying to get you, I do not know who this person is. No, just joking.
It's an illegal situation.
Legal
in a legal country.
situation, right?
Yeah.
But no, and my first experience with it was it really wasn't that psychiatric. I would say it just made my head kind of like, just I don't know, maybe a little bit. It didn't even feel too distorted. It just almost felt like I had a little bit of alcohol in me.
Mm-hmm.
That's what kind of felt like.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't feel drunk, which was great.
Mm-hmm.
Now obviously I learned that the more you take, the more the experience you get and that the height of it. And but I know for about like 8 months, like I did not know the strengths of ketamine. Like obviously I think we would agree DMT is the most potent of the psychedelics. And man, we just said mushrooms or acid, just depends on how much you take. But I didn't even have ketamine on the charts. I just kind of looked at it as like a little fun thing. I wouldn't say fun, but my comparison with it was I told people it's like your mind is racing when you are on mushrooms and acid, but there's no visuals. And I remember I said that to you, and you was like, "Oh no, there are visuals." And I was like, "Really?" And that's all you had to say, because I was like, "Let me go find these visuals."
Yeah, I remember I'd send you with some, because I've heard people be skeptical of this before, but again, you just have to put yourself in the situation, which for me is in a generally quiet place. I love to do it with music, and just lay down and close your eyes, and the visuals are mind's eye visuals, like their imagination. And the more you let go into it, the further you can go. And I had a friend that told me this, which I also was skeptical of until I experienced it myself. But he said that the experience of all the psychedelics felt as close, like if you said DMT was the most potent of psychedelics and kind of the quickest shortcut into source energy, whatever that may be. If that's the center of the bullseye, then ketamine is maybe the 10 points right around the bullseye. It's pretty close.
Yeah, I put it number 2 now.
Yeah, and the nice thing is that it's short-lived. I think taking the commitment of 8 to 12 hours on a heavy LSD dose is a lot more daunting for most people.
Yeah.
And it's just a heavier experience overall, whereas ketamine, usually the main experience is only 30 minutes, and an hour to 2 hours you're completely sober afterwards.
Right. I want to know your first heavy experience with ketamine to where you really got something out of it. Because before you go in, because I want to tell you mine, I was at a rave. And it was wild because I was actually going through, I don't even know what you call it. Was this a breakup? Were we together? Who knows? But anyway, I was going through a separation that I had with a young lady. Well, that's such a nice way that I put that. I was dating at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But man, I went to this party, and my friend had some ketamine, and I did some, and I did some more, and I did some more. But it got to a point, I was at the party, and all of a sudden, and you know how it gets in you. You just start, whoa, and it comes on, man, maybe about like 10 minutes, you start feeling something. And I could feel the grid above me. And the best way I can explain this, is that everything is a part of the grid. It's just, you're just in different positions of the grid.
Like the Matrix.
But fine. But not really the Matrix.
I know what you're talking about, but
Right.
I'm trying to get more descriptive words out of you.
No, I appreciate that. But as when I close my eyes, when I can see this grid, I could see it beating like boom, 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 and I noticed everybody's grid above themselves was different. Some were more colorful, some were bigger, some were smaller, some may have had just I don't know, maybe tiny bit difference of a pattern, but it was all part of the grid. Now, and I saw mine hanging over me, and I saw that people's were different, and I just got in my head. Now at this time, I was actually looking for companionship. It was really ironic that this happened like this, and at this time, I saw the grid in front of me, above me, and I started following where it wanted me to go, basically. So I was like, all right, well, what is this? Because I saw it was boom, 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 boom. So I started following it. And dude, I close my eyes, open my eyes so I know where I'm going. Close my eyes, see where it's going. Then I kind of go in that area. Then I close my eyes. And now before this, I had met this young lady at this other party before the party that I went to. This one, like an hour before, and I was talking to her. And I was like, man, like, and we split up. And my friend Michael was like, hey, don't worry about her. She'll probably be at the next one. I was like, all right, cool. So I remember thinking, I was like, man, it would be dope to talk to her. Like, man, where is she? So I'm following this grid, like, boom, boom, boom. Just following all throughout the dance floor, for about like maybe 10 minutes, it felt like, And then all of a sudden, I get to a part in the grid where it confronts something that is very similar to itself. And I'm looking at it, and it's not straight identical, but it's very similar. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, closing my eyes, I'm looking at it, I'm like, and then I open my eyes, and then I look below where it took me. And the young lady was standing right there, who I had met an hour before I wanted to talk to. And I was just like, wow, this thing is in search of itself. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, like there she is. I want to talk to her. And it's almost like the grid was telling me, was leading me to her, was showing me where she is, So that was really my first experience with it, to where I don't even classify that, even though it was visual, I didn't even classify that as some of the visuals that I see now. It really just takes me. I'm looking through dimensions and stuff like that. But that was my first experience with it, to where I was like, well, there's something to this. Mm-hmm. So, like, what was it for you that opened you up to, like, man, this is more than just your head racing. There's something, I'm getting something out of this.
I'd say, obviously that first time was powerful enough for me to want to explore it a lot more. But there was one particularly that really changed everything. And there's something interesting about ketamine in that I've never had a batch that's the same twice. And every time is a little bit different and a little bit unexpected. And also, I would say that drug conforms to whatever activity you're doing and changes the activity in this weird way. And it also will change with whatever other drugs you combine it with and have this very interesting interaction. So one particular time at a music festival, a pretty small one out in the woods, we had done a combination of quite a lot of things. We've done this like kind of alchemy thing where you take little microdoses of each different drug to kind of maximize their positive benefits, but minimize some of the negative stuff. So we'll take like a microdose of LSD to just have that energy and that movement, but not too much because then it's a little bit antisocial. So to kind of take the edge off that LSD, then you add some MDMA to add a little bit more, openness, like community lovingness that is, you feel so potently at a small music festival like that. So we've combined a few of these things, and this particular MDMA was just really potent and really wonderful. And we came upon an older dude who had set up a little booth in front of one of the stages where he had a VR system. And he was testing out a beta version of a new VR program called Microdose. And this was developed by a digital artist named Android Jones, who I'm a huge fan of. He's incredible. He's made some amazing art, and some really cool, digital art and prints, but now they've formed into some of these more immersive art projects. There's one called Samsara that you can see sometimes in like those 3D projected domes. This one is a VR project that he was a part of, and a very large group of artists that kind of were headquartered in Burning Man, I think is where they met. And hundreds of artists worked on this program for years. So the beta version is there. We put on the headsets, and the best way I can describe this is that it was like, it wasn't even really a game necessarily with rules, but it was like you were a singular point of consciousness in these huge, vast, and beautiful digital worlds. There was a lot of different levels. Each one was, one of them was actually the playa in Burning Man.
Oh, wow.
Lit up at night with all of the beautiful like LED colors and lights in the background. One of them was kind of like a universe where you're flying through quasars and nebula, and you have all the stars in the background. And the controls that you have create different types of objects in front of you. And so you can fly in any direction with your controllers, and then you can create these objects. And I couldn't quite have enough time to know how exactly what they made worked, but it was fractals and geometry, and sometimes like bicycles and all these random objects. But you could then create these whole worlds with all these fractals in the world that you're already in, and then fly into those worlds as well. And so we
Sounds like my type of VR video game.
Yeah, well, one of the ideas behind it is that is learning a whole new laws of physics and a whole new game. And the point of it is it puts you into a meditative state, because you're in a state of learning. So you get into a flow state very quickly. So one of the points of this game is to simulate a flow state and create a very creative state. And it works. It's incredible. And now it's actually available to the public. You can get it on the Microdose VR website. Wow. and use it at your home. And so we were on this combination of psychedelics, and of course we added some ketamine right before we went in. And so then being in this immersed world on the psychedelics, but also having that sense, like you mentioned, this sense of connection to the grid. We also felt that through this digital world, which I instantly felt as an extension of the human mind, because it was created from the human mind. And I could almost feel the intentions and the soul work that the creators of this digital world put into their art. And so I was seeing through that art and into the artist's intention, and through that into the kind of soul of the universe in a way. Right. So it was almost like a portal through the art into the infinite. And it was just like a beautiful, really fun, crazy experience. And then when we came out of it, it was wild, because that feeling stayed with me. And we went out and saw one of the DJs that was playing, and just on this dance floor with all of these other friends, and that particular combination of drugs and that experience, I instantly just felt this connection with the one. And I could see all of my friends as iterations of myself, entertaining myself, almost like the earth was this flat piece of fabric and all of these fingers popped up out of it to like see each other and hang out with each other, but I knew they were connected to the same hand underneath it all. And that was, you know, a combination experience of a digital experience and then a heightened drug experience with a lot of friends. But that was just knowing that ketamine was one of the triggers to release enough of my dogma to be able to embrace one of those experiences of oneness that made me rethink ketamine and really, you know, believe my friend when he said how deep it really can go.
Yeah, this thing goes deep. I didn't start really feeling the deepest, even though I felt like that grid experience that I had, I really didn't truly understand the depths of it and how far it can take you until I started having these ketamine baths, you know, in my tub, which thankfully is big enough for me to fit in comfortably. And I was like, you know, let me just, you know, I know water is great for meditation and stuff like that. So I was like, you know, I'm gonna meditate. I was like, you know, let me see what this that's actually the first time that I saw the visuals, like I think where I called you. I don't know if I called you when I was on it or I think I've called you when I was on it before. I've called a couple people when I was on it to where now I realize I need to have my phone away from me because there's certain people that I don't need to call. So, but I remember, let me see what this is about. Because at first I kind of just still kind of thought it was just more heady. But then again, I mean, really, if you really want to get down to it, it's all heady because it's all in the head. But I just thought it was more mental and less visual. And man, I just took enough, basically. And I love how it takes you, really, because it's a fast but slow come on. It feels. It's not like dragged out slow, but it doesn't like just like DMT slaps you in the face, like psh. Like ketamine doesn't slap you in the face, but it's quick. It kind of like it gets you there, and it almost gives me the same sense of DMT when, you know, when you're doing DMT, you're like, all right, I'm almost there. Wait a minute, I've been here for a few seconds and didn't even realize it. It's almost the same way, but still a little different because, like I say, you know, it doesn't smack you on the face. But once you're there, and I also think why I wasn't having the visuals is because I wasn't closing my eyes like all the time because it didn't hit me as strong. Like it didn't hit me like boom to where I was like, whoa.
And you got to release into it, like allow it to happen too. Because if you're holding on, it doesn't happen.
Exactly.
Which is different than some other psychedelics. Like they're happening whether you're fighting it or not.
Right.
And then but this one, you know, close your eyes and you really surrender to it, release to it, then it just starts opening up these portals in your mind.
Yeah, you're so right. Because even times when I didn't take as much, when I took less, to where I didn't feel like, oh, it's not going to do now. I'm like, let me see. And I just go and close my eyes and boom, it's there. I'm like, wow. And really one of the things that actually told me while I was on it, which makes sense with everything, it's probably, I'm on this, you know, I was already into it. It wasn't like one of my first experiences, it was one of my later experiences. But it said, you can only see it when your eyes are closed. And it's not just with that. That's with anything and everything, even the non-physical. Because even if you open mushrooms and acid and all of them are going to hit you, and DMT, they're going to hit you. But when you close your eyes, you see the non-physical, what you're supposed to be seeing. You keep your eyes open, this reality be distorted and other things will come through, yeah. But when you close your eyes, you're just going to see something different. I guess what you are trying to see, or what the goal is that you want to see, or should be seeing, even though I don't like those words, should be and all like that. But you can only see it when your eyes are closed. And I know when I close my eyes, man, it that statement makes sense on a number of different things, on a number of different levels. But the one level it makes sense on is because you are trying to get a glimpse of the non-physical, and the non-physical does not exist in the physical. The non-physical exists in the non-physical, and darkness is the non-physical. And there's no such thing as darkness, but you think there is, but there's not. But that's where that world, where the non-physical exists. You're not going to see that world in this physical world. There's too much stuff to blind you or distract you from it, or it's maybe not in the coding for you to see.
I think it's also that you have a lot of baggage with what you see visually in this world. Like everything is tied to a lot of different concepts, a lot of words. You see a chair and you have all these thoughts about chairs, and they're tied to 1,000 different memories and, colors. And there's just a lot of baggage that your brain will then turn on to processing and filtering all that stuff. So I feel like if you can find ways to turn off those filters as much as you can, then you open up to this whole other world of possibility that you don't normally have access to.
Right.
Because one of my biggest experiences on those deeper ketamine journeys is, at first, like visually it's wild. Like it's just like this wild, multi-dimensional cosmic carousel of weird images. I had one experience where I turned into a scarab beetle, and I flew across the deserts of this world, and then I flew out into the universe and through all these star systems and through other worlds. And at the same time, those worlds were unfolding on themselves like a picture book almost. And one of the senses that I have with a lot of these types of visuals, and I don't know, you can tell me if this happens to you, but I really get this sense of a fractal reality. Yeah. Like I really see the hologram of this reality and that's what makes me think maybe it is a simulation, because I see all these pieces of it, and it's almost like looking at yourself in one of those corner mirrors, and you see yourself, but if you cock your head a little bit, you see the infinite of you all the way down and around the corner. Yeah. So you're like, it's me for infinity. Yeah. And I just lose sight of how many me's there are around the corner, and I just haven't gone far enough. But really, all of the universe is unpacked, and like a hologram, there is a piece of everything inside every piece of everything.
Yeah.
That's the kind of sense that I get.
Back. Yeah.
I mean, I get that sense with TMT too, just in a different way, experientially.
Yeah. One of the experiences that I had with it, and my experience with it is that really, if you want to go to a scale of heaviness where like 1 is a light trip and 10 is the max you can go, it's very hard for me to grasp and bring back information when I'm at a 9 or 10. Mm-hmm. I can't really, it's so over my head. Mm-hmm. It is so over my head. I can't explain it.
Over your head in this dimension. And I'm sure you can understand it there.
When it's happening,
right?
It's happening,
but when you're back here, it's like there's no words for it.
But it's even deeper than anything, though. That usually I'm able to grasp or explain some type of aspect of what I think I experienced. I remember there were a couple ketamine trips, man. I couldn't explain anything, but I know it was some of the most profound experiences that I had. And it's like, you give into it, you're like, oh, just take me, and like, wow. And dude, I felt like I was in that thing for like an hour and a half. Mm-hmm. Who knows how long it was, because I wasn't timing it, but I was just like, oh my God, I got the feeling that it wouldn't end until I wanted it to. Mm-hmm. And I was like, man, this thing can just go on and on. And that's really the only thing that I was just maybe grasp what it was downloading into me, what I was seeing, was so far over my head. I'm usually able to bring back information or understand the information when I'm at a 7 or an 8. That's when I can really just digest some things. One of the things that I was able to bring back when I say I was at a 9 or 10, and it's the only thing, and I don't know why this came to me, but you familiar with the Marvel character Kane the Conqueror?
No.
All right, so Kane the Conqueror, he's a time traveler, and he's one of the focal points in the Marvel movies now. He's like the new Thanos. So now they're, he's the big guy. He's in all the movies now, and they're focusing on him. So they're doing a lot of promotion for him, and in Marvel, it is their number one thing now. And people who watch Marvel, it's going to be their number one thing that they're understanding. Oh, this Kane the Conqueror guy. Now, who, like I said, is a time traveler, and he's in this there's meta versions of him. There's multi-dimensional versions of him. It's like as many dimensions as there are, there's him, and he battles himself. He's at war with himself through these dimensions. Now, on one of the trips that I had, I saw this. I'm looking at a version, and I usually don't see human figures or structures in any of my psychedelic experience. It's very rare. But I saw Kane the Conqueror, and I remember looking at Kane the Conqueror, and I was like, why am I getting Kane the Conqueror right now? And basically what it was telling me is that the art that we have right now is prevalent for our times. So Kane the Conqueror, we are seeing Kane the Conqueror right now. It's being given to us in art as it is now, because the art, in a way, is trying to open up or give different perspectives to human beings to understand the nature of their reality. I did a vlog one time where I said, like, is our subconsciousness revealing itself through movies? Like some movies that I love, K-Pax, Vanilla Sky, Inception, Matrix. I felt like the consciousness is trying to tell on itself what it is. So when I saw this Kane the Conqueror, I was like, why am I getting this? And it was telling me your art is prevalent for its times. So Kane the Conqueror was supposed to come out right now because it's trying to give the masses what it needs to right now. It was not supposed to come out 100 years ago. It was not supposed to come out 500 years ago or even 200 years from now. The art right now is coming out right now at this times because it's supposed to, and it needs to, for whatever consciousness that we are gravitating to or building towards. Like, when, as redundant, as meaningless as it seems, everything has a significance. Even Peanuts, the cartoon Charlie Brown, that came out when it was supposed to. And however little, it doesn't seem it's not like it's breaking down multidimensionals to tell you something like that, like Kane the Conqueror is, But it's doing a little something to soften up your consciousness to get you ready to understand, what's coming. So that was really one of the only things I really took from one of them 9 or 10 experiences. But everything else, man, it's so profound. It's really what you aim for, and it clears you. You come out of it, really just understanding that this place is even more of an illusion than you think it is, and it does. It fills your heart with forgiveness and all like that and compassion, but it really is hard to take away any specifics from it. Like when we get some of the downloads that we do.
We've nailed what we think the super deep stuff is, but back on Earth, there's a lot to do regulatory wise for people to use this stuff safely.
There is. So how do you recommend? Do you recommend someone having a guide when doing ketamine?
It depends on what you are experiencing for. First of all, we do not recommend or condone any drug use that is illegal, and consult your physician on anything that you're interested in trying.
Great disclaimer.
But if it was advice that I received, It depends. Everything depends on what you're trying to achieve.
Right.
Look, again, if you're doing something recreationally and you want to have one of these experiences, for sure, do it with somebody that knows what they're doing. Make sure whatever you're taking is safe. Make sure it's tested for fentanyl, and make sure you're doing it in a safe place with people that you trust. If you're doing it specifically for now what they're getting all the research for, things like mental health, anxiety, depression, PTSD, OCD, there are lots of legal places that you can go where they would combine it, and I would highly recommend that you combine it with therapy in those cases, because I think one of the most important parts of psychedelic use, if you're doing it for mental health reasons or even growth reasons, personal growth reasons, is the integration of the lessons. Like you said, it's hard to put it into words, so you need help with integration. Right. Just talking about it with your friends, sure. Journal about it, sure. But having somebody that's trained in the therapy kind of help you work through stuff, because I guess we could talk briefly about some of the ways that people use it, because the American Psychiatrists Association has found that it is a effective use for depression. They don't even 100% know why, but
Right.
like people have had, after they take it, they inexplicably have less depression for a couple of days. It can increase the potency and the effectiveness of certain types of psychotherapy. So I've had friends that have undergone that and had some successes. There's even now places that will mail you ketamine. You take it at home, and then you have a Zoom with the doctor
Wow.
afterwards to integrate and talk about what happened.
Wow. Times have changed, my man.
Yeah, they really have. So maybe another short anecdote about how that can work. In my experience, I have not undergone one of these therapies. I do have friends that work at ketamine therapy offices and own them as well, and they're really helping a lot of people, and it's incredible. And it's also a nice way to ease people into psychedelics, I think, because you're doing it under a physician's care and with the help of a psychologist. So the way that I've seen this work is ketamine's called a dissociative, right? Because in some ways, when you take it, you do kind of disassociate from this reality. Your mind dissociates from your body. You dissociate from your preconceived notions of who you are and what things are. So similar to the way that people are using MDMA in therapeutic settings, where it increases your oxytocin levels and your dopamine levels. So when you think about traumatic events, you are in a much better place. You can kind of recategorize those traumatic memories in a kinder place, so that when those memories are triggered, you don't have a traumatic response. This is perfect for PTSD. So, say a soldier went through a tough war zone experience, and then he goes through that experience again, guided through by a therapist under the influence of MDMA. He can recategorize that memory, and then suddenly he's not as painfully triggered by that memory, because he's changed the way he feels about that memory.
Right.
I had one of these experiences with ketamine once, where we both know that if you combine it with cannabis, it can be much more powerful.
Can it?
So it was one of those. I don't smoke very much cannabis. I don't love it like you do.
Right.
And
Go ahead and tell on me.
And honestly, it's not a secret.
It's legal now.
It's legal in California.
Basically everywhere. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I really just don't smoke very much at all, and smoking large amounts sometimes gives me anxiety. And that could be something to look into, because in this particular situation, I smoked and then I did a heavy dose, and I was feeling really anxious. I was really couldn't.
Before you did.
After
you did it.
I didn't even take stock of how I was feeling. This is another part of set and setting. I didn't even really pay attention. I was just kind of like, fuck it. I just feel like, cutting off from the world and maybe traveling the ethereal realms for a little bit. But I didn't check in with myself to see how I was feeling before I did that. So I smoked and then took some ketamine and laid down and felt like suddenly just like hit by this anxiety. And I was like,
Wow.
it was super uncomfortable. And then it's like that situation of like, did I take too much? Am I going to be okay?
Right,
You know,
right. You started
you
getting in
start
your head.
spinning, even though we talked earlier in this podcast. Yeah, you're going
Yeah.
to be fine. You're safe.
Yeah.
Like it's not a lethal dose. Like
Right.
there's, I was not in trouble by any means, but your anxiety brain will turn on you if you give it cause to. And then I had this moment where I tried to use some of this mindfulness training that I've been working on for years. And I took a breath and then I tried to find out where that anxiety was in my body. I located it. And then I was like, what the fuck is that from? And I just zeroed in on it and I kind of flew into that spot in my chest. And through that, just like I was talking about with the portal through the arts, I kind of felt like this portal through my own chest into my own past history.
Wow.
And I followed that down guided by this like thread of pain that I was feeling in the moment, and followed that thread all the way into this memory I had as a kid, where I was like just in just a stupid kid situation, but like was kind of treated in an abusive way by like an adult, just, kind of physically and verbally. And that in that moment, as a kid, I was rewatching this moment and saw that whenever I was in this particularly uncomfortable situation and talked to this way, I would react like shutting down with this anxiety that like I kept here in my chest. And so watching that, I realized what it was coming from and I kind of changed my perspective on it. I got that the adult that was in the situation was scared that what I was doing was going to hurt me or somebody else. And so he snapped and yelled at us and yanked us off this playground. And so thinking I was in an unsafe situation would make me afraid that I was going to get hurt and left and yelled at, and all these other things. But then I saw it from the adult's point of view and like, yeah, he's scared. And I forgave him. And then I forgave me for reacting that way because I didn't know any better. And like everybody was just doing their best in the moment. So I forgave everybody. And then I just felt this peace. And then I got pulled back up that thread through my whole like timeline of life. And then like arrived back here. And then that like this cramp right here kind of settled. And I felt okay. It was almost like going through a file folder of like, where's this coming from? Oh, here's the file. I don't need this file anymore. Rip it up, toss it. And then it was like, I accidentally did this like therapy session on myself or something,
right.
but it was impactful and it helped me.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's necessarily the type of things that modern therapy is doing with people on these ketamine experiences, but I know that it's possible from firsthand experience.
Yeah. I mean, I obviously think a lot of things are possible, especially with what I've seen with all the other psychedelics. I myself, I can't say, I especially not with ketamine. I haven't had an experience, I don't think, with psychedelics where it took me to a past memory that I was traumatized from. So that's dope. That's fascinating. Like it took you, it's almost like recalling past lives, but within your own life, and it just took you there. Yeah, 'cause I've had situations like that, but not a past deep down memory like years ago. I mean, I had something that was more recent, that was just letting me see a different, but not so much their perspective, but the overall perspective, I would say.
It's kind of like a third party perspective.
Or like the universal perspective, or truthfully, the perspective that I myself did not see in the moment, but what was happening for me in the long run. I mean, for instance, not to get too deep into it, because it is a part of my book, but I had some betrayal by a friend. I mean, you know all about this situation. Well, I guess he was a friend. Well, anyway, I had some betrayal by a friend. It hit me very deeply. And I remember looking at this person when I first met him, thinking, man, this dude looks like a joker. I just remember seeing him, he looks like a joker. But I was still very giving, letting him drive my car, my motorcycle, tripped him out on DMT, used my poetry for his DJ sets, and the betrayal he did was like really vicious, and it was just ugly. But and obviously I was mad, you know. I mean, I'm part-time human, and I let it come out. And I mean, I was very conscious, and I'm very aware, and I don't really regret any way I acted. But what it was showing me is that I was on the ketamine, taking a bath, and his face, a vision of his face came to me while I'm on the ketamine. And I say to myself, oh man, not this shit right now. And I was like, really? And I was like, all right, fine. This is what you're gonna do. Fine, I'm fine. Let's go with this, right? So I was just like, so he's like peeking at me like above the water. It looks like he's in the water with me, but he's not in the water with me. But you know, he's in the vision. He's peeking up me through the water, and I'm looking at him, and I'm just like, man, you know, just those sneaky eyes, you like, man, and all of a sudden I'm like, wow, he's the Joker. And I was like, hold up. And it all starts coming to me. And I'm like, you're the Joker in the card deck that stops the game. And once I realized that, you know, he just kind of smiled at me and then went right back into the water. And I realized in the overall perspective of that was that he wasn't a curse. It wasn't something that was meant to be bad, really. It was a gift to allow me to continue on and to get what I needed out from the experience of what happened with all the parties involved during that time, which, like I say, people will hear about it in my book called A Moon Near Venus, coming out soon. Shameless plug. But so that was really the only time that I could say that well, I can't say the only time, but that's one of the most vivid times that it took me to a perspective and something that happened to me, but it was more recent. I never had an experience where it took me to my childhood and dug up some stuff that maybe I had forgotten about, which I think is extraordinary. And I know that has done that for some other people. Some of these psychedelics do that. So yeah, man, I mean ketamine. I highly endorse it, support it, through therapy.
Safe and legal means.
Safe and legal means. We can go on and talk about this all day. I'm sure we'll come back and do another session because
we've had a lot of wide varying experiences on it, and I think we just kind of scratched the surface on some of the powerful ones, but definitely life-changing, and you know, this is just a glimpse into some of the life-changing capabilities of psychedelics if they're done responsibly. And again, credit to MAPS for leading the way on this. That's the Multidisciplinary Association of Psychedelic Sciences.
Yeah. To
get this stuff out to the people in a safe way, and also guide because up until recently, ketamine, and it still is considered a Schedule III drug, which means that it's addictive and dangerous, which it is not. The long-term effects haven't really fully been studied. There is some concern that it can damage your bladder after like prolonged use, but I don't think anybody should be using it daily or anything like that.
Yeah.
You know, just every once in a while for a little brush up on your, psychonaut nature.
Yeah.
But try it with some nice music and in the dark, laying down.
You know, I did want to mention, I don't know, you remember the kid in Denver? I think it was in Denver. He was definitely in Colorado. He was killed by the 2 paramedics. McCall, what's his name? Fuck, I should know this.
Oh, he was he was having a psychic break, and they hit him with too much ketamine, and then he passed away.
Right. Elijah McClain.
Elijah McClain.
Yeah. Oh man. It's horrible. So I didn't know all the specifics in there, but dude, they injected him with ketamine.
Yeah.
And what we now know about ketamine, and that dude was freaking out.
Mm-hmm.
Of course he was freaking out.
Well, again, remember when you take really high doses, it's like an anesthetic. It kind of puts you down, and you may not, and that's what happens when you get injected with it too. Because I don't think either one of us has ever taken it intravenously, but that's what they do in a ketamine clinic, just under the threshold of knocking you out. If a paramedic gives it to you, then they'll give you a pretty powerful dose to try to knock you out with the anesthetic effects.
Well, they didn't give him enough, or whatever they did that shit so wrong, and that's why they didn't understand what was going on with him. Whoever was on call at that should have understood exactly what ketamine is to calm him down.
Well, again, they're not using it for the psychedelic effects.
Right.
And he suffered a heart attack afterwards. They roughed him up and they held him down.
Right.
And then he had a break, and then they gave him I don't even know how much they gave him, but they gave him a lot, and then he had a heart attack on the way to the hospital. So, I'm sure they looked into this situation to see. I think the cops were a little too rough for him.
All right, so check it. We joke about, I'm going to put some DMT in their coffee, or put some acid in their coffee, have them to enlighten them or whatever, because we'll joke around with people who we think need it. But, at the end of the day, and we both know, that's evil.
Yeah, for sure.
To put someone through a psychiatric trip without them understanding what's going on and being aware of it. And what they're doing is in the same boat as that.
Yeah. Yeah, and then, this one, it sucks that somebody had to lose their life over it. And I agree, you should never give somebody something psychedelic without them knowing, or any drug without them knowing. And this wasn't his choice. Obviously, he was having a mental break, and they
probably had never even heard of ketamine.
Yeah.
He probably never even done psychedelics or mushrooms.
I don't think they needed to.
So to fill this kid with that, of course he's going to be freaking out.
I don't think they needed to do that to sedate him. I mean, they literally did it to sedate him so that they could just get him out of there. But,
there's so many other things to sedate someone with other than ketamine.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there are, risks involved with it.
Yeah.
And
but the thing is, I don't think it's the ketamine that did it. I think it's the experience that did it. I think the ketamine freaked him out because he has no idea what the hell is happening. And when you get freaked out, you get anxious and all like that, and your heart starts racing, man. I believe the whole experience is what drove that situation the way it did.
Yeah, it probably did. Just being everything combined.
Yeah, yeah. So no, that just was on my mind. I wanted to bring that up because
police violence is a whole nother episode.
Another episode
whole
of Psychedelic Download. Yeah. Well, man, is there anything you want to say before we close one out here and get deplugged?
No, let's unplug. I think that was a lot of downloading.
Yeah, that was a lot of downloading. A lot of things to give people to think about. But yeah, I appreciate y'all for listening. This is the Psychedelic Download, and we will see y'all soon. We are unplugged.
Is our universe real?
It's just ideas. They're just ideas.
The Psychedelic